Interfaith Dialogue, a Guide for Muslims by Muhammad Shafiq and Muhammad Abu Nimar, is the title of the book. It was released in 2011 or 1432 Hijrah by the International Institute of Islamic, London. It also includes 5 chapters and 168 pages. This book is meant to serve as a guide for Muslims who want to engage in fostering connection with non-Muslims. For example, Jews, Christians, Buddhists, Hindus, and others. Muslims are also commanded by the Quran to show respect towards adherents of other religions. Religious discourse can promote understanding and create links for harmonious cohabitation. This book also provides guidance on how to apprehend the religion of others and as a way that successfully fosters interreligious communication. This book also clarifies dialogue as a mode to communicate that differs from conventional logical or theological discussion that are utilized in between Muslim and non-Muslim. And it also offers a guide to help leaders and participants get ready for a dialogical relationship with non-Muslims. Next, an approach that will educate Muslims of the ethics of disputes based on the Quran and Sunnah. Also, the one is an instrument to impart knowledge and explain terms so that my understandings about interfaith organization can be avoided in order to achieve the most successful form of communication.
Next, we move to 10 ideas that we gained from this book. There were several main ideas that was highlighted in this book. The first one is the importance of interfaith dialogue. This book begins with authors defining interfaith dialogue. They define dialogue as derived from dia, which means across or through, and logos, meaning conversation or word. Meanwhile, for interfaith dialogue is defined as a conversation between two or more people of different faiths. In the Islamic tradition, dialogue is seen as important for better living and understanding between individuals, groups, and religions. The authors also state that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, engaged in dialogue with people of different faiths, such as idolaters, Jews, and Christians. The goal is not to eliminate differences, but to understand and accept them. Authors also say that the Prophet emphasized the importance of getting to know and understand each other to avoid disputes. This means that dialogue helps to build understanding and bridge between communities and fight against negativity and extremism. This is also supported in Hadith found in Al-Bukhari's Book of Reconciliation. Next, the authors also address 2 objections that some Muslims may have towards interfaith dialogue. The first objection is related to ecumenism, which refers to the concept of unity and coming together as a family. It originally comes from the Greek word oikos, meaning house or household. The term can be used in a broader sense beyond just Christian context, addressing and connecting internal divisions within any religious, ethnic, or other group. Initially a secular term, ecumenism was later applied to the Christian movement with the aim of uniting the various Protestant denominations. They address Muslim concerns about interfaith dialogue by explaining the historical context that led to its development. Muslims expressed their concern that interfaith dialogue might lead to mixed religion worship service, which contradicts their belief. However, the Quran and Hadith encourage dialogue both within the Muslim community and with non-Muslims. Some misunderstandings among Muslims arise from a lack of thorough Islamic education. The third idea that the authors emphasize in this book is the guidelines for intrafaith and interfaith dialogue. Some of guiding principles that was highlighted by authors in this book would help in fostering peaceful understanding and living together. The first guiding principle is control over nafs, which means desires or inner self. The authors reminds that controlling the desires and inner self is crucial in both intra and interfaith dialogue. They state that the nafs can lead a person to prioritize self-interest, prestige, comfort, and wealth over Islamic principles. Following one's desires or hawa is strongly condemned in the Quran. By resisting these temptations and controlling the nafs, individuals can uphold Islamic values and engage in meaningful dialogue. Additionally, being polite, gentle, and avoiding harshness are important. The authors convey how Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is known for his politeness. They underline some of the ayah from the Quran that indicate Allah praised his politeness and gentleness. As we know, truth cannot be spread amidst hostility, but only with proper behavior and tolerance. The authors also mention patience as a guiding principle that is emphasized many times in the Quran. It is a virtue that can help, especially in interfaith dialogue where diverse opinions are prevalent. By practicing patience, individuals can more effectively manage perspectives that differ from their own. It allows for respectful and open communication, fostering understanding and promoting peace. Another interesting idea that the authors underline is 5 rules cited by Ismail Raji al-Faruqi about the ways to ensure the success of interfaith dialogue. The first one is no religious pronouncement is beyond criticism. Divine revelation is authoritative but should be understood rationally and logically. Discussions should be clear and logical, avoiding unintelligible paradox. Dialogue also should consider and respect the historical and religious context of participants. Effective dialogue must acknowledge participants' realities, including their physical, ethical, and religious perspective. The last one is there should be freedom in interpreting religious texts, allowing diverse opinions and fostering tolerance. Referring to Richard Landau's ideas about ethical duties in dialogue, the authors highlight several points that should be focused on. The first one is use creativity and sensitivity toward others. Include all religious groups in the initial planning. Start with commonalities to build trust before addressing difficult differences. Focus on understanding rather than winning. Last but not least, is ensuring dialogue is balanced and no one dominates the conversation.
For today's presentation, I will focus on 2 concepts discussed in this book. First is ta'aruf. The first concept is ta'aruf, which means to know one another. This concept is derived from the Quranic verse that encourage people to know and understand each other beyond their differences. Ta'aruf emphasizes the importance of building relationships and fostering mutual understanding among different religious and cultural groups. In the context of interfaith dialogue, ta'aruf is about engaging with others to learn about their beliefs, values, and traditions. This approach helps break down stereotypes and prejudice, paving the way for a more harmonious coexistence. By getting to know one another, we can appreciate the diversity that enrich our communities and build stronger, more empathic relationships. Next, we go to Islah. The second concept is Islah, which means reconciliation or restoration. This term appears frequently in the Quran, highlighting the importance of mending and improving relationships. Islah is about resolving conflicts, restoring harmony, and building bridges between different communities. In interfaith dialogue, Islah involves working towards reconciliation and understanding, rather than allowing misunderstandings and conflicts to persist. It requires a proactive approach to addressing grievances and heal divisions. The goal is to create a peaceful environment where different faith communities can coexist and collaborate for good common.
Okay, let's move to the next main idea or concept that I gained from this book, a guide for Muslims. This book told us about Prophet Muhammad's example of tolerance. The Prophet Muhammad is portrayed as a model of tolerance and peaceful coexistence, even with those who always resist him. He usually preferred conversation over conflict, and his actions were a reflection of the mercy and the light in the light found in the Quran. The book said that the Prophet's life is full of examples of tolerance and non-violent ways of politely communicating Allah's word to the non-believers, even when Islam was in its early stage. Prophet Muhammad made treaties and alliances with non-Muslims. He formed agreements and alliances with various non-Muslim tribes, and he signed a cooperation agreement with Medina's Jewish tribes, concluding the Treaty of Hudaybiyah with the pagan Meccans. This Treaty of Hudaybiyah was a significant example of the Prophet's preference for peace and dialogue over conflict. The treaty stipulated a 10-year peace. During this period, every person belonging to the two parties shall be safe and secure, and none of them shall raise wars against the other. Then the tribes of Arabia shall be free to make a treaty with either party, and the Muslims shall return to Medina without performing Umrah. Next year, they can perform Umrah and stay in Mecca for 3 days. This treaty highlighted to us that the Prophet's commitment to peaceful coexistence. He knew the peaceful living would allow Muslims to dialogue with non-Muslims, move about freely, and build relations with other tribes, and also an excellent example of going the extra mile with others to achieve peace. Then, the concept or idea that I found in this book is about Islamic principle of justice and welfare. The principle underscores that the Muslims are called to stand for justice and the welfare of all humanity, regardless of religion. This includes fighting against suffering and injustice in a manner that aligns with the teachings of the Prophet and Islam. Muslims are urged to stand firmly for justice as emphasized in the Quran. This encompasses ensuring fair treatment and fighting against any form of injustice, whether it be social, economic, or political. The principle of ta'awun, mutual assistance, is highlighted. Emphasizing cooperation is promoting good and preventing harm. This principle encourages Muslims to work together with others, including non-Muslims, for the betterment of society. The Prophet Muhammad's life is presented as a model for Muslims in this regard. He consistently acted justly and fairly, even with those who were his adversaries. Next, the other idea that I found in this book is about the historical successes and effort that highlighted in interfaith collaboration, including cooperative activities such as a dinner fundraiser for victims of the Bosnian War held at a synagogue, where Muslims could offer prayers, demonstrating the possibility of interfaith cooperation. Furthermore, educational programs like Islam 101 have been successful in dispelling false belief and providing non-Muslims with knowledge about Islam. These popular programs attract large audience which promotes communication and understanding. Impact and vision is also an idea that I got from this book. This is because improved connection and productive interaction between the Jewish and Muslim communities can greatly support greater effort for peace building, which include resolving the Israel-Palestinian conflict. Example from Rochester's past show how local efforts have significantly cultivated interfaith harmony and collaboration, showing that productive local dialogue can have a significant impact on global peace efforts.
So next, I will talk about the methodology that used by the author. First, the empirical data and survey. The writer used data from the Council on American Islamic Relations and Pew Survey to highlight the increase in discrimination and negative perception of Muslims in the US and Europe. For example, this survey often includes questions about perception of different religious groups, including Muslim, and across various countries. So next, I will show the graph about the following Council on American Islamic Relations. The following Council on American Islamic Relations graph is a warning about the increasing civil rights violations Muslims in the United States are reporting. Muslims must act swiftly by taking positive steps to counter the growing hatred against them. Secondly, the methodology is historical analysis. The writer discusses of historical stereotypes of Islam reinforced through media, literature, and popular culture from the Crusade to contemporary times. The writer explores how Islam started with principle of pluralism and how early Islamic communities thrived on the free interaction between Muslim and non-Muslim. For example, for the chapter 3 highlights how the early Muslim community in Medina include Jews, Christians, and pagans, and how the constitution of Medina established of pluralistic society where different faiths coexisted and were protected. For example, for the chapter 3 highlights how the early Muslim community in Medina include Jews, Christians, and pagans, and how the constitution of Medina established of pluralistic society where different faiths coexisted and were protected. Lastly is the case study, the Abrahamic faith. This chapter discusses the interfaith effort in Rochester, New York, highlighting how the local Muslim, Christian, and Jewish communities have worked together. The case study outlines their experience, challenge, and success in fostering interfaith dialogue and cooperation. The case study also discusses the challenges faced in interfaith dialogue, such as overcoming prejudice, theological difference, and political tension. It also highlights the success achieved, including increased mutual respect, stronger community bonds, and a more inclusive atmosphere in Rochester.
Interfaith Dialogue, A Guide for Muslims, is the book that acknowledges the long history of Muslims living in multi-religious society and the importance of respecting other religions as emphasized by the Quran and the practices of Prophet Muhammad. As the book addresses several challenges and misconceptions surrounding interfaith dialogue among Muslims, I am convinced that the author able to clarify that genuine interfaith dialogue is about mutual understanding and respect, not conventional theological debate as what worried by Muslims. Next, in community and leadership engagement aspect, I agree with the author's suggestion in incorporating interfaith dialogue education into youth program to prepare future generation. As some leaders may have reluctance and fear, proper understanding in other beliefs can overcome this barrier. Last but not least, I really like how this book is designed not only to educate Muslims about the importance and principle of interfaith dialogue, but also provided practical guidelines. As the book includes methods for preparing leaders and participants, clarifying key terminologies, and emphasizing the etiquette and ethic of disagreement based on Islamic teaching. Overall, it is a helpful book that encourages peaceful living and mutual respect among different religious groups. It provides education, practical guides, and solutions for current issues, making it useful for Muslims involved in interfaith activities. The book highlights common human values and the need to understand and respect different religions, which is especially important in our connected world today.
In conclusion, all religions that people have studied, examined closely, valued or rejected must welcome all others. To coexist respectfully and grow in adherence, people of various faiths must respect the doctrines and ritual of other faiths. Religions such as Islam, whose message is universal, have to undertake ijtihad or change their teachings to fit needs of the modern world. Thus, Muslim imams and Quraysh organization can help Muslims make sense and apply their religious practice and belief in the contemporary environments. Moreover, It is among the endeavors and that provide everyone with the chance to practice their religion freely. This demonstrates unequivocally that Muslim participants in the interfaith conversation will gain more from it if they have achieved mutual understanding with other religions. Similarly, after coming to an ecumenical agreement, Jews and Christians discovered that their interfaith conversation has improved.